Hello and welcome to another episode of Younger by the Minute. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie Spicer, and I'm always here with my other lovely host.
Jennifer Spicer.
And we're the show that helps you live younger, stronger, and more intentional with every choice that you make.
Every minute you listen, you get younger by the minute.
There you go. I think you coined that one, by the way.
I don't know.
But today we're going to be diving into one of the most powerful tools I feel that is at our disposal. I actually use this to help biohack me and you. And that is using the constant glucose monitoring system, a CGM. So there is the Dexcom and Stello. And so the big thing that it really does is it takes the guesswork out of wondering why your energy crashes, why your cravings are spiking, why your body doesn't respond the way you used to. And in this episode is going to change how you think about your metabolism, your nutrition, and your longevity. I'm going to talk about my personal experience out of the gate with this one, because the one thing I got frustrated with is I know how to get myself lean. I mean, I've done multiple bodybuilding shows. I know how to get other people lean because I've worked with hundreds of people to get them into bodybuilding shows. And when it was time for me to get really lean was about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't figure out why. I changed my macros, I changed my caloric intake, I changed the way I trained. Nothing was really happening. And then this is the first time we wore a Dexcom, the constant glucose monitor. And what I found was the pattern. And as Tony Robbins always says, find the pattern, you'll find the fix. And so what I noticed is multiple times throughout the day, I would be sitting there, and next thing you know, because we had the meter set for 150 to ping, and I'm 180, 190, one time I was even 300. And I'm like, how is this possible? Because I know I hadn't had carbs in at least an hour, hour and a half. And what I'd attribute it to is all stress related. It was that much stress. I was bottling up that much stress, or I was having that much of a moment in distress that it was driving me through the roof with it. And so your body can't distinguish between if it's an adrenal dump of insulin or if it's because I just ate a Snickers bar. But the fact that it was above the 150, taking over an hour for it to fall back into the hundreds, that's like me saying, I don't know why I can't get as lean as I want to lose weight, and I'm eating 5 Snicker bars a day. It's just, that was the reality of my situation.
Well, and it was a clear snapshot of what stress is doing to the body, because that constant release of glucose can be lethal over a long period of time in regards to making you more insulin resistant over time, and then also affecting, neurocognitive issues later, because Alzheimer's is linked to sugar in ways as well. And so with that being said, I mean, it definitely allowed us to look into the foods, and we'll get into that. But it also allowed me to realize, like, when we would be stressed at work because we have a gym literally in our practice, I would then get stressed and go take it out on the weights. And it was like the absolute worst thing that I could possibly do. I would watch on the continuous glucose monitor that the glucose would just continue to go up.
Right.
So what I learned is I have to go outside, gather myself, and do some breath work, get my glucose back down, and then I can go work.
Right.
And just change that. So it really, like, it kind of reminds me of, like, our dog, Kiki. She hates it when you swear. It was like one of those things that was like, hey, watch it. Like, this is how much you're internalizing. This is what you're doing, and how all that
Right.
works. It was interesting.
Right. And it's funny because all this, and we've always said this, like our story, we're here because we've gone through stuff which has allowed us to help other people because
Right.
of what we've gone through. And because I went through that, it wasn't too long after that, I was working with a girl out of Florida who is insulin-dependent diabetic. And, I kind of was coaching on her parameters, and, we got her levels way lower with carbs, which is what every doctor told her not to do. But then she started noticing a couple of patterns. Again, follow the pattern. It was stress, and she was shooting it up. And because of me and what I went through, I said, hey, the next time you start to notice that your glucose monitor, because she had to wear one all the time because it's insulin dependent, had a pump. I said, why don't you just try doing some box breathing? She's like, what's that? So I coached her through it. So the next time she texts me, the next time it happened, she's like, oh my God, that worked. Like, I don't understand. And I said, because the flip side of that is she did exactly what she was taught by her doctor, right? So was to bring in glucose because,
Of course.
going up. sort of pushing insulin. Sorry, so her blood sugars were shooting up. And then, of course, she injected insulin, but what's happening 15 minutes later, she was bottoming out. So she literally went from like 160, 170. She's now down around 50, 60. And I said, because it's a false read. I said, because what your glucose monitor was measuring was stress, not food. What you're taught on how to inject your insulin was based on food, not stress.
Yeah.
So then we fixed that. But it's all because of what I went through on that. And that's why I think, when someone would ask who would benefit from a CGM, and I'd be frank with you, I think everybody.
Everybody would, because you get a snapshot of how much stress you're really internalizing. And then also, I thought what was really cool is actually at that time, was before sourdough became a thing. We were eating like Dave's Killer Bread or whatever, or having oatmeal. Those were our carbs in the morning. And I spiked very high off of one slice of bread, which was essentially 15 grams of carbs,
Mhm.
but didn't spike on a half a cup of oatmeal, which you would know the carb content in that. And it
Right.
was,
32 grams.
you see, so like it was crazy,
Right.
and I don't, it just, we are all different, but you had a different response to it than I did.
Correct.
And then also types of potatoes.
Yep.
They affected us differently. And now, granted, I know that there's like hacks with potatoes, like if you,
Boil them.
yeah, and then also put them in the fridge and cool them down.
Right.
It lowers the starch content. But I do think, they call glucose the snapshot.
Mhm.
And that's the biggest thing. It is taking a snapshot in time. Sometimes when I do serum labs, the glucose can be a false high
Yeah.
because they've fasted a little bit too long and the body is going to compensate for that. That's where on serum labs, like I like people to do a CGM so they can track, but then they also do need to be following up with some insulin levels.
Right. And when you take a look at, like, again with bodybuilding, the way they get that lean like that is they really become very insulin sensitive, right?
Mhm.
So, and if you look at athletes, the same thing. They're extremely active. They're eating high amounts of calories. If we're talking about Michael Phelps, was eating 10,000 calories, and it wasn't all clean food, but he did that much activity in order to justify that caloric burn until he would lose weight, which is what we've talked about in the past. He had to eat that high, otherwise he'd be muscle wasting at that point. So if you really want, for the people that have been struggling with everything and they've been eating, really trying to eat clean and do those stuff like that, I think that's where a CGM is really going to shine through, because it will show you specifically what foods drive you up and what foods keep you level, or even in some cases might drive you down a little bit.
Even for a female to wear it, because they're a month-long process, and you can do it for 1 month or you can do it for several months, but it's also really interesting to see, and this is something that you've always done or helped me with, is you need to change your nutrients based on your cycle as a
Mm.
woman too.
Yeah, there's a
You
whole diet written around it.
so, like, there are times when you're more carb sensitive and there's times when you're more, resistant to them. And so understanding your body, and that's the biggest thing. Like, it's our body. So you really want to have a true understanding of your body. Like, even when we work with people, the one thing I always tell people is this isn't the typical medical paternal relationship where we're telling you what to do.
Correct.
You know your body. If something doesn't feel right, if something's off, like, we can only go based off of what experiences we have and what the protocols are. But as you said before, the human being is always the variable. So you have to adjust. And then sometimes we're even the variable of ourselves.
Right.
So it's, things change, things shift. We're never the same. Every single day is very different. And I think that it's a good idea, not just for people that have been struggling, but for people that really want to take their health to the next level, because you learn what foods work, what foods don't work, how long you should fast, like, especially in this craze of intermittent fasting.
Right.
People always think that too much sugar is bad. Well, too low a sugar is just as equally as bad,
Yep.
and actually more dangerous in
Yep.
ways.
Yep. Then it comes back to, like, and I think this is a really good point, is like, CGMs, just like GLPs, were originally introduced for pre-diabetic and diabetic individuals. But in what we call the biohacking world, um, we're using it to create longevity. We're using it to dial ourselves in. And when just 30 days of data, like, you can get a lot of data and use that data long term to really devise out a long term game plan for yourself. And during those times, even within that 30 days, like, we push people, like, I want you to go out to your favorite restaurant, eat your favorite meal, and get that data. Because then we have that stuff. Like, we did it at Capitol Grill the one time. It was funny because it's not what I expected, but your exact words are like, so I get to eat steak, have a glass of wine, asparagus, and some chocolate flourless cake and my blood sugar stayed the same. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure how this is working, but
Uh, I mean, hey,
we tested a theory and it worked. So, but you really dial things in, and I think that's where it really big is big on that. So, you know, my opinion, I think just someone who's really wanting to dial in their plans, someone who's really looking at everything, and I think a majority of people are really shifting this way,
yeah.
as they're really looking at their health from a longevity standpoint, not just in the moment now, because of increased pricing on insurance and everything going on with that. And I do believe people are becoming more aware that being pushed on medications is not the solution to your problem long term, that you got to get to the root cause. And with that, then you can get off certain medications, which is going to put more money in your pocket. And I think inevitably that's what people want, because that's like, how can I afford some of this stuff? It's like, well, if you improve your health, then you're saving money in other areas where you could spend in this area.
Well, and that's why we chose Stelo because we've been writing for Dexcoms, and there's a good RX coupon that can be used because if you aren't a type 1 or type 2 diabetic, it's not covered under insurance, but I do think it's pretty reasonable and it's worth knowing because what if you are eating a certain food that spikes you and you can get real-time data based on yourself? Or what if you have been trying ketogenic and it's not right? Or you realize that you can handle carbohydrates? Because like so many people think that carbs are the enemy, but it's more about like when do I need to eat them? How do I need to eat them? Am I fasting for too long?
Right.
Like even for me, I remember the alarms were going off on the CGM right before I would wake up. My blood sugar would completely bottom out,
Right.
so changing that, it's
When
so
you think
stressful.
about that now, if you're one of those people that wants to fit into the mold of like everybody's on this big hype of getting up training at 4 o'clock in the morning, because that's when The Rock and Wahlberg and all these guys are doing it. So they're going to fit in this. That is the worst point of time of going in fasted and working out if you're already dinging at
Yeah,
that low level, because you're already going to drop blood sugar working out within the first 10 to 15 minutes. Within the first 20 minutes, whatever liver glycogen you have is going to be gone.
mhm.
And now that's where you're going to end up lightheaded, dizzy, and probably passed out, because I guarantee you're not hydrated enough either, because you're literally waking up and going to the gym.
Well, and it's putting so much stress on your adrenals, and people don't realize, there's actually 4 hormones that come from out of them or 4 things that the adrenals make, and it's cortisol and adrenaline, which make your body go. But we're in such fight or flight all the time now between everything that we're exposed to and the type of lifestyle that we live, which is a huge reason why people travel over to Europe. It's not just the quality of food, but it's also taking the stress off the body. That's why they lose weight.
Yeah.
And so then they're also walking after they eat. It's a really big thing. Like we'll go walk after we have a big meal because it helps your body process that because glucose is needs to get into the cells to do their job. And if you have excess of glucose and the body can't process it, that's when you start to become insulin resistant.
Right. And
So,
that's why we really like using the data, because we already do customized nutrition
mhm.
based on it. We adjust every 2 weeks and revamp a plan up in 30 days. But it really allows us to customize that nutrition plan. It's going to allow us to stabilize your blood sugars. It's going to let us tell you how you should be eating pre and post workout, no matter what part of the day that you train. It's going to help reduce down inflammation in the body, and it's going to help you burn more fat efficiently and safely is going to be the biggest thing with those things. And that's
Absolutely.
why I'm a big component of this. So, what are some of the other things you can learn? I think we're in a CGM. I kind of hinted around this earlier, like we talked about Capital Grill and doing dinner when you eat out, but also about what are certain healthy snacks. Because I, you know, we wore it when we went to Italy. So you can wear that when you travel, because that's always the biggest thing I hear from people. I don't know what to eat when I travel because I'm on the plane, going to this and I can't pull out a chicken and rice meal. You can, because I know a lot of bodybuilders that have done it, but you can dial it in traveling too. So that's why I'm talking about, like, you can get so much data on how to kind of eat in whatever circumstance that is presented to you. And you're really fine tuning this into it. You get to learn what's stressing, even though, and I've talked about this before too, like we live in our natural and adaptive state of stress, what are conditioned to.
Mhm.
It isn't until we remove ourselves from that, then we realize how much stress we're under, or until something really stressful happens when you go, that was a really stressful day. But it doesn't mean that your body isn't underneath stress. And that's what I found out for me. I thought I handled my stress pretty decent. until that monitor showed me I was spiking my insulin multiple times throughout the day.
Well, and you were, I mean, yes, your glucose was spiking, but you did make progress. And, that's the other thing. Like, I remember one day telling you when mine went up, I'm like, I don't feel stressed. And you're like, well, clearly you are. Like,
Right.
because you're conditioned to, it's like the frog in the pot of boiling water. It's like you don't just jump into the hot water, it's slowly getting turned up on you. And that's some of the things that you might not realize,
Right.
you know?
And we just kind of went through that with an example today with one of the clients you work out of state. We were talking about it and how his sugar levels are about 140. And so we're going to do a little experiment. And this is what I love about it. It's real time data. So like I encourage him to probably eat another, and because he really wasn't eating carbs before bed, is some fruit, but maybe 20, 30 20 grams most. But I'm encouraging him to add in like another 40 to 60 grams. So we're talking about he's going to be anywhere now between 60 and 80 grams of carbs before bed. And if that blood sugar level now lowers down, that means that his body is stressed from lack of food and he needs to bring his caloric intake up some. Or if we notice it improves and he doesn't want to do that, then I kind of coach him, then start paying attention to, if it's lower down for 3 or 4 days and then it bounces up on the fourth day, then that's telling you that you need to carb up every 4 days. So now we get real data to support the theory of a carb cycle. And when do you carb cycle? Is it second day, third day, fourth day? Do I do two high, one low? Do I do one low, two high? Like, how do I cycle? This is giving you the data you need to dial that in.
The other thing that I think is really cool is people get to see how much artificial sweeteners really actually still spike their
Yeah.
glucose because people think, oh, well, it's artificially flavored. It's fine. It's not. It's actually worse. Like, you're better to the only thing that I like to use is stevia and every once in a while xylitol.
Right.
But just keep it real, do the real stuff and don't go over a certain amount. And once you change your taste buds, or if say you do a microdose GLP-1, you can learn to like things less sweet.
Hmm.
Your body is always going to try to do the thing that's easiest to do. And straight sugar is very easy for your body to break down over a molecule of fat.
Right.
So it's always going to go to the path of least resistance if you give it the availability to
Wh-
do so.
That and the one thing I liked about it too was really again we've talked about in episodes before about your mindset shift. It really allowed me to see what the consequences of my choices were.
Yeah.
Like, it showed me right then and there, like, okay, boom, I hit that and like, oh, that is not the direction I want to go in. Like, I'm trying to lose weight and drop body fat, and that just made me go the opposite direction. So, and I love challenges, and so it challenged me to do better because again, it was giving me that live data and doing stuff like that. And I'm an all-in kind of person, so I'm no quitter, and I always like to excel, and I always have to win. So like, I had to beat this thing,
Yeah.
and I had to show myself that I could beat this. And we haven't worn one now in what, over 2 years,
Yeah, no, I'm excited we have some though.
right?
I need to.
But again, all that data is what we've used over the last 2 years to keep us where we're at. And anybody who knows me and you, we are not big fluctuators in the way that we look. Like
Not
it's
anymore.
no,
I used to be.
but it's like because we've learned how to adapt. We learned based on that data. We've talked about that was, in a stressful week like the 11-year party that came up, that we knew to bring carbs down because of that. So we were able to do that live data. I think the benefits of using the CGM go far beyond weight loss. They go into better blood sugar control. So you're getting fewer energy crashes and cravings. Again, the big craving is sugar because sugar is highly addictive, more addictive than any street drug out there. The improved metabolic flexibility. So you learn what your body needs to burn fat efficiently, what foods work best with you to accomplish that, which then is going to lead into better hormone balance because you're going to stabilize your glucose, which is going to support your thyroid and adrenal function. And then long-term disease prevention because you are going at this with more of a longevity plan that has live data that gives you real data on what you're doing, which is going to help you put together a bigger plan because it's also going to reduce down diabetes, heart disease, inflammation, which is the biggest killer in us all. That is a whole nother topic that is left untouched. And then you're going to get empowered because, like I said, you fully understand what your body is going through and take back your control of your health. And like I said, I like to play a game with it. So
I love it. I can't wait to wear it again because actually I know my hormones are a little bit better balanced, and that's the biggest thing. I think if people really want to figure out what's going on and why, they need to dig a little bit deeper. And this is a very good tool. I love it.
Right. And so as we wrap this up, I just want to say at Precision Life, we're calling this unlocking your health potential, because when you understand your biology, you can master it. And if you're ready to experience this and you want to work with either me or Hannah on this side of it, just give us a call up at Precision Life STL. Let them know that you listen to the podcast. There is a discount, $50 off by listening to this, and just say promo code Younger by the Minute, and you'll get that. I'm very excited and super pumped about this, because I've yet to see anybody else doing this. Kind of my mastermind brainchild experiment, but I'm excited to really push this through.
No, and I think it just brings a little bit more precision to everything that you need to do. And if you're gonna fully go into something, you might as well go all in.
Kind of like how you wove in precision there. All right. And with this, I'm Jamie Spicer. I'm out.
I'm Jennifer Spicer, and thank you.